UFC 295 is going down this Saturday, and this is my main event prediction for Jiri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. So as we all know, Jiri beat Glover back in June of 2022 to get the belt, but he suffered a very serious shoulder injury that canceled the rematch in December, and Jiri Prochazka vacated the belt, which led to Jamal Hill fighting Glover Teixeira for the vacant belt in January of 2023, and Jamal Hill absolutely dominated Glover, and he won the belt, but unfortunately, Jamal Hill also got injured, and the belt was vacated again. So now that Alex Pereira has officially had one fight in the 205 division and he beat Jan Blachowicz, he is fighting Jiri Prochazka for the vacant belt. Let's start the breakdown, and we're going to start with the pros and cons of each fighters, and let's start with the former champion, Jiri Prochazka. So let's start with the pros of Jiri. In my opinion, this guy is very underestimated and underrated. And a lot of people just think he's just wild, awkward, and that's what wins in fights. That's a big part of it, but he actually does small, subtle things that are actually very good. So starting off, his straight punches. His straight left and his straight right both possess power. And man, even though they start from the waist, he never has a high guard. He has a low guard. Both of his hands are at his waist. Usually his left hand, if he's in the orthodox style, might be a little high because he's hand fighting. But his right hand is usually always on the waist, and it's very snappy and very fast. That's how he's catching Glover. That's how he's catching Dominic Cruz. And even Ozdemir, even though he couldn't really catch Ozdemir in the first round with his right hand that much, but eventually that's how he KO'd Ozdemir at cold in the second round. Secondly, we have his awkward angles. This guy can be off balance and still hit you with a stunning left hand that will send you halfway through the canvas. He is very good with his awkward angles. He will be going forward, and then you will push him back, and then all of a sudden he cuts the angle, then he's barraging you with punches. His angles are really awkward, and that's what makes him Jiri Prochazka. That's where the wildness comes from. In the Dominic Cruz fight, he was implementing a lot of awkward angles, not just with the spinning back elbow that he landed, which eventually killed Dominic Cruz. Even in the first round, the angles he was punching from, they're not orthodox at all. They don't come from the chin. They're all either coming from the waist, and it's very hard to predict them too because you don't know which angle they're going to come from or how fast they're going to come. This guy with his angles, he's a master at it. He actually mastered the awkwardness. And this leads to my third point, which is switching stances. And Jiri switches stances like his life depends on it. We see Adesanya switching stances, but it's not like Jiri, because Jiri has power in his left hand and he has power in his right hand. And it's not just any power, it's knockout power. For example, Jiri would be landing left jabs on Glover, and then when he landed his right hand, he would automatically switch to the southpaw position, then land a left mean cross. So he'd basically hit you with both backhands in one combination. And although we've seen Jiri get hit a lot and we've seen him rocked, but his chin is very good. That shot that Glover landed in the 5th round should have knocked Jiri out. But even though Glover made a mistake by pulling a guillotine, Jiri still recovered and submitted him after. You do not recover from shots like that. That was a picture-perfect shot. And while Jiri was even fighting Dominic Cruz, Dominic Cruz landed one of the meanest uppercuts I've seen anyone land, and Jiri just ate that. He's just a monster like that. Even when he was pressuring Dominic Cruz back, and Dominic Cruz's left hand is like a laser beam, and Jiri was just eating it as he was pushing forward, so the momentum was clashing, and he was getting the bad half of it, and still eating it. My 5th and the 6th pros about Jiri are basically, they kind of mix and match. So pressure, unpredictable, and explosiveness. So these 3 things Jiri's really good at. Obviously, he's better when he's fighting, when he's pressuring you. So let's talk about an example where this happened in a fight. So second round of the Dominic Cruz fight is the last 30 seconds or 40 seconds of the second round. And they're both on the ground. Jiri explodes up. Then he starts pressuring Dominic Cruz to the cage, jabbing him up, right hands, everything. And then, unpredictable, the elbow comes. And then the elbow is what finishes him. Jiri used all those 3 things I talked about in the last 30 seconds of the second round, and he got it done with the elbow. And that was so unpredictable. Literally, no one saw that coming. And as much as people say that Jiri's just a wild striker, he actually does have a decent ground game. Because he's so explosive, he can get out of when people are transitioning or trying to make improvements on the ground. Like Dominic Reyes, when he got the guillotine, Jiri slipped his head out. And in the Glover fight, where Glover had Jiri in very bad positions and sometimes was grounding and pounding the life out of Jiri, Jiri still exploded up. He used his hips and he got up. And even when Glover had Jiri's back, he kept his chin down. He knew what to do, and he still got up with those positions. Now let's talk about the cons of Jiri Prochazka, and the first one, the biggest one on this list, is defense. Even those awkward angles and straight punches that come from his waist can be a good thing, it can also be his downfall, because as you can see in the picture below, Jiri Prochazka got slammed with the right hand by Glover Teixeira, and he couldn't get his hands up in time. That's why his low guard, and he leans forward a lot. When he's like in a resting position or he's like thinking of what move to do next, he always leans forward. And man, that's not good at all, because if Alex Pereira times a flying knee or something as he's leaning forward, it's going to be night-night for Jiri. And the second one I have it with a question mark, because the shoulder injury, we don't know how major the shoulder injury was. All we know is that Dana White said that it was one of the worst, so it could be very major, or maybe Dana White was just saying that to say it. We never know. We didn't get any details about it. I don't even think we got any x-rays about it. But yeah, Jiri did look a little bit weaker after he had his surgery. But let's hope everything's good and this isn't a factor in the fight at all. And now we have one of his biggest weaknesses, which a lot of people don't mention, but he struggles at distance. In the first Ozdemir, like the first round of the Ozdemir fight, Ozdemir was piecing him up from distance because Jiri couldn't back him up and, have his blitz on him. Like you saw even in the Dominic Reyes fight, when they were at distance, Dominic Reyes was like landing pretty decent body kicks, his left hand. But when Jiri was on the attack, that's his defense in my opinion, because he had them shelled up and he was just going unloading and going crazy. Even against Glover was landing his best shots while they were at a distance. And being at the distance with Alex Pereira, you gotta fight very smartly, because he will pick you apart, because that's where Alex Pereira likes to keep the fight, in the middle of the octagon. And now let's move up to the former middleweight champion Alex Pereira, and these are his pros. Obviously, you gotta start with the leg kicks. Even though we all know Alex Pereira, he has great kickboxing, elite kickboxing generals, but I wanted to be more specific in this pros list. So his leg kicks, obviously they're so unorthodox. He basically hooks you with his, like, not his foot, but like the beginning of the shin. He basically hooks you. And even in the Jan Blachowicz fight, he didn't even land that many leg kicks, and Jan's whole leg was messed up. Even in the Adesanya fight, both of the MMA fights, the leg kicks were giving Adesanya a lot of problems. And yeah, man, Jiri likes to keep his front leg cocked up a little bit, because he's gonna get, you never know when he's gonna explode forward or throw a flying knee or something. That's why if Jiri doesn't really check them, and I don't think he's interested at checking them at all, he's gonna have to tough through it, because Alex Pereira is gonna be attacking the leg. And second off, let's go to feints. We all saw what Alex Pereira did to Sean Strickland in the first round. He was jabbing at the body, teeping to the body, and then he faked the left hook to the body, but he came all the way to the head, and that made Sean Strickland's hands go low. I can see an instant where Alex Pereira keeps on kicking Jiri's front leg and is all busted up and everything, and then he's about to kick his leg, but then he fakes it, and last second he throws a head kick. I can see either him landing like that, or I can see Alex Pereira faking to the body and then coming up with a left hook. And speaking about left hook, one of his best attacks when we talk about punches only, that left hook has a touch of death. If that lands, you might not go down, but you're not going to be the same. You're going to be all wobbled. We saw in the first Adesanya fight, the first MMA fight, I should say, Adesanya was pretty up on the scorecards. And then we see Alex Pereira have the comeback of the century and finish Adesanya, not even in MMA, in his kickboxing rematch too. And in my opinion, an attack that is very underrated that Alex Pereira has is that his jab. His jab's a thudding jab, man. In the first Adesanya fight, you could see how much it was bothering Adesanya every time he landed a jab, and he would consistently land it in the first round, the second round, the third round, the fourth round, and the fifth round. You know why I said how Jiri likes to keep his hands down and he leans forward a little. If Putin can time his jabs well, those are going to start adding up. They're going to bust Jiri up, especially how thudding they are. Either he can time Jiri with a jab, then right hand, or jab, and then left hook. I think that would be night-night for Jiri if that happens. I don't think Jiri can eat Alex Pereira's power shots, but he can't eat all of them, and every man has a limit. The cons of Alex Pereira, and again, let's start out with the defense. Alex Pereira gets overexcited when he thinks he smells blood or he's going to capitalize on something. I'm not even talking about the Adesanya rematch that Adesanya KO'd Alex Pereira in. Even the Jan Blachowicz fight, when Pereira was landing his combos and he was doing good, he still he would leave himself open where Blachowicz would counter and back him off. And that was mostly happening when they were inside the pocket instead of being at distance. From what I've seen, because I just recently binge watched a lot of Jiri and Alex fights, when you're fighting Alex at a distance, he's very calm, he's very collected. He does have a zombie guard, which I'll get into later. But yeah, he's okay at distance, but when he smells blood or he thinks he has you cornered or he can take advantage, he pretty gets really overzealous, starts widening up his hooks, widening up his uppercuts, and that's where he gets caught. And now let's talk about the chin. Yes, we've seen him take huge shots in the Jan Blachowicz and Adesanya fight. Even in the Bruno Silva fight, he was getting hit. But man, his chin is not that great. When he gets hit, it's easy to tell when he wobbles because his attacks, they just stop. He has to take a second and back off. And that's probably smart to do and not just, go at Cody Garbrandt. But we've seen him get caught over and over again by right hands, and they all stun him. It's not a terrible chin, but compared to Jiri's, is not great. And lastly, MMA experience. This isn't really that big of a concern for me anymore because we've seen how he handles the ground game with Jan Blachowicz, and we've seen how he handled the ground game with Adesanya. It was okay with Adesanya. Both were really awkward on the ground because they're both strikers. But with Jan Blachowicz, he actually did a pretty decent job not getting submitted, even though Jan Blachowicz had his back and he was getting up. He's not as explosive or quick to the scrambles like Jiri is, but he can survive on the ground because we all know that he trains with Glover Teixeira, so that's obviously a good thing for him. But the only reason I put this in the cons is Jiri has more experience, and he's not Adesanya, he's not going to be awkward, and he's not Blachowicz, he's not going to gas out because we're at elevation. If Jiri takes Alex Pereira to the ground, he's going to do damage, and he might even get a submission. That's all I'm going to say. Now, back to the zombie guard I was talking about. The zombie guard is when instead of having your two hands to your chin, you just have them out in the air, and when the attacker comes forward, you just try to keep them as a measuring stick, but then the attack get through. I'm gonna have some pictures. Adesanya did this, where Adesanya would just be long with a jab, then he lands his right hand, because his zombie guard is not a tight guard, it's such a loose guard, and strikes can get through, especially if Yuri's coming with a blitz of left, right. If his guard's not tight, they're gonna go through. So now, the $1 million question. Who wins, Alex Pereira or Jiri Prochazka? Honestly, I've been going 50-50 on this fight the whole week, but I think Jiri Prochazka is gonna win, and I'll go into detail. All right, I think Jiri Prochazka is gonna slump Alex Pereira in the third round, in the middle of the round with the right hand, and he's just gonna slump Alex Pereira. I think the first two rounds are gonna be war, and I think both of them are gonna take damage, with Jiri wobbling Alex and Alex wobbling Jiri. But I think the way Jiri can take damage and his determination, never giving up, his awkward angles, and the ground game experience he has, I do think Jiri will try to take him to the ground and do as much damage as he can there. It'll be dumb of him not to. I think Alex Pereira is going to fall to Jiri Blachowicz. And yep, that's my prediction. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Pereira wins by left hook knockout. But honestly, I'm just going to go with my gut and what I've seen from them so far. I think Jiri Prochazka is going to win this. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. And let me know who you think is going to win this Saturday, Jiri or Alex. Thank you guys.